if there was an election tomorrow, he'd be out. There's too many whispers around, and I think they could completely finish the man. So Starmer literally is a middle manager.
Let's switch to Starmer. So all these problems are not Starmer's fault, personally. This has been a slow decline over all my lifetime, basically. But Starmer is the latest manifestation of the middle manager, of the globalist, of that sort of person, career politician. Can he survive? I mean, it looks like he's going to lose on this cutting down on the welfare bill. He's done a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Nothing. If it wasn't for bad luck, he'd have no luck at all at the moment.
No, absolutely. You use the term middle manager. I think that's quite interesting because I remember a video that Dominic Cummings did. He was sat down in front of an audience and he was talking about the workings of government. I'm sure you've seen it.
I think I have.
And he said that, what you're seeing with cabinet meetings and all that sort of thing is a pantomime. It's already predetermined what's going to happen, what the outcomes are. They're just the front men. They walk in the door and here's the script. This is what's going to happen before the meeting's taken place. So Starmer literally is a middle manager. I do so many videos on my channel where I say Starmer's finished, and I always get criticism for it. But eventually, I think he will run out of luck because I think there are things in the media that are being sat on. There's too many whispers around, and I think they could completely finish the man. It's quite obvious the amount of things he promised he would do when he's elected. And this is one of my big problems with politics as a whole. He's not done or reined back on. I can think of a load of fuel allowance, council tax, energy bills, all sorts of stuff. He flip-flops from one area to the next, quicker than breathing. If there was an election tomorrow, he'd be out. If Labour win in 2029 or whatever it happens to be, I'd be amazed. I think they'd be out. I do think the party would go into survival mode rather than let's have an election and try and oust him. But then who do we end up with in his place? That's always a worry. You look at the front bench, it doesn't fill you with any confidence.
No, I agree with that. But there's people on the front bench who come across as human. Angela Rayner comes across as human. People may not like her, and she suffers from classism. People dislike her more because of her accent. That's factual. And she's also a bit of an idiot. I get that. But some of the others, at least they have a personality. At least they come across as a person. He comes across as a robot.
I'm not going to name the person just in case because of the day and age we live in, but I've heard him described as a constipated Dalek. Yes, that's about right. Just zero anything about him, really.
Yeah, I think you've right. He is implementing the playbook that has been the same playbook now for 30 years. It's the next stages of that. But I think those MPs will be looking at him going, we're in deep trouble. And not we're in deep trouble, my seat's in trouble. And the most important thing to me is to keep my seat. I will have a better chance of keeping my seat if you're gone. Whoever comes in now, Starmer can take all the blame for everything that's gone wrong now, clean slate, draw a line under it and have someone with a better personality. Because as we've seen with the waste of space Boris Johnson, who's the worst prime minister in my lifetime, if you've got a bit of a personality, you can get away with a lot more than if you don't.
Well, that's why he was brought in the first place, because he knew how to win elections with that personality. What did he achieve? A big fat zero, really. And again, what have we ended up with? A country of people cheesed off with the Tories. And look what we've ended up with. What next? But, they keep kicking a can down the road. And there's one, you say the agenda. There's 1 year that keeps creeping up again and again and again. 2030. All the time. 2030. what's coming in 2030. And Starmer's just part of that big mechanism, isn't he? You know, you're in, here's the playbook, play your part, and all the while you're useful. Out you go. There'll be someone else. And, you know, it rolls on.
For people who don't know what 2030 is, can you explain?
There's a series of things. A lot of people call them conspiracy theories, and a lot of people call them conspiracy fact. But you see things like digital IDs, cashless societies, certain tracking systems to do with health and welfare, and you know, 15-minute cities, another term. All of these things, and it's all zeroing in on that year 2030. Like everything's click of the fingers, and you get a big reset. You know, I'm being very careful with my choice of words for the sake of your channel, but that's you know, where it all seems to be heading. And you see little telltale signs all the time, which make you think, I mean, one thing, all these housing estates they're putting up everywhere. I made an observation before. Most of them are within walking distance of shops, superstores, and all that sort of stuff. They certainly are around my area. 15-minute walk. You know, I wonder if it's all playing out in front of us.